Thou that sleepest, arise from the dead.
Read the Bible, you'll find out that God's not too happy with what's going on around us.
Redeem the time, because the days are evil.
The Bible has not changed.
Boldly proclaim the restoration and preservation of Christian values in America.
Satan has brainwashed a whole nation.
As goes the church, so goes the nation.
Nobody's convicted of anything anymore.
And now, here's Last Call with your host, B.J. Edwards.
Morning.
We go.
Yeah, it is I, B.J. Edwards, and Mr. Anderson. Thanks for joining us this morning, folks. I really appreciate it. We're here to light a candle. That's very important. There's going to be 100,000 or so at the Ohio State football game today. And there ain't going to be a lot of them on the field. And that's what we're missing, folks. We're missing you. And we're here to equip you. We're not here to help you complain. We're here to equip you. And we have two great guests today. They're both doers. That's what we'd like to bring to you. They are doers. And that's important. Here's the quote for the day. And take this to heart and keep it in mind. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty or safety. Benjamin Franklin. You know, there's a cost to freedom, folks. There's a cost. But we're just an incredible nation. I mean, we're continually treating symptoms. And here, we want to get after the source. We want to get after the cause. And the biggest cause is a family. I don't care. $100, prove something else is more important than the family. Yeah, I know. I'm a Christian. But there's a reason God created the family first and then the church. He just created Adam, can let it be. No. The first institution he created for the benefit of man was a family. And it wasn't what today's nuclear family is or our current tradition is. It was one biologically born man and one biologically born woman, husband, wife, mother, father, mother, respectively, and their biological and or adopted children. That's key. That's foundational. Everything we do is to try to get that back in the spotlight where there's no vision of people perish. If we don't see the family as critical, and look what we major in child abuse, folks. In America, we major in child abuse, physical, mental. We're going to get into that today. But basically, we're an RX nation. From vaccine discussions, crime, they're always the same. It's more profitable to treat the symptoms than effect a cure. And that insult to injury, criticize one another over the results while our children watch. They're watching us criticize each other. They're told they're victims. So as victims, you can't do anything. You're helpless. So what do? You complain. If you're a complainer, does that mean you're a victim? Maybe that's what I'm saying. Victimhood, hopelessness. Can't do it without Donald Trump. Can't do it without Barack Obama. Wow. Yeah. You need to start thinking. That's right. Hour number 2, Dick Manesaeri. The American landscape is changing. Physically, morally. This is just one incredible era that we're in, an opportunity. I wrote an article, and I want to get into that a little bit, and then we'll get our first guest on, for the Wisconsin Christian News. And I started off with a quote I gave you, safety, liberty. Folks, you can see that we are an amoral and unjust nation. That's obvious. And our president is taking the crime symptom of this, and he's emphasizing this, and that's not all bad. That's good. It needs to be taken care of. Matter of fact, there's been a rapid decline in crime in Washington, D.C., at least temporarily. And the success is being attributed to more law enforcement personnel in the streets, the highways and the byways. We won't try to affect a cure. So we're going to treat the symptom. Folks, when you wake up every morning and within the first 2 hours, you've probably broken 3, 4, 5, maybe 10 laws. We're a nation of laws. And all you need is more law enforcement. I didn't say justice, peace officers. I said law enforcement. And do we really need this across the fruited plains, flooded with law enforcement? Is that what the answer to the question is? And what are you going to lose if that is for sure the answer to the question? Do the ends justify the means? Do we need to round up posses? You know, the president is threatening to send troops to Los Angeles, to Chicago, and other quote unquote blue cities.
New York,
yeah. The only problem is that there is a Posse Comitatus Act, 18 U.S. 1385, that specifically reinforces the distinction between military and civilian authority by limiting the role of armed forces in domestic law enforcement. He cannot do what he's threatening to do if he obeys the Constitution and the laws of the land. That's the duty of the leaders of the states, the cities, and communities. And that's where you and I come in, folks. We need to be the doers. We need to get out of those stands and onto the field. We need to do that. Prayer.
Someone's trying to join our panel, and we're overloaded. I took one of the presentations down. Maybe that person can try again.
Okay. But we need to get in the game. Do we not have enough citizens already in jail? The United States of America incarcerates more of its citizens than any other nation in the world. Yet we need more law enforcement. We need more people in our courts with J6 type judges. You can give example after example after example, not just J6. Probably in your own family where they're being put in prison. Not good. As goes a family, so goes the nation. As goes a family, so goes the church. So goes the church, so goes the nation. It's up to us, we the people, locally. I was talking with a Gen Zer, and they're thinking about running for office and not too awfully sure, whether they're qualified or not. And what I told her, actually, that's what drove our first guest today, for me inviting our first guest on. I'm gonna bring her on, and then I'll explain what happened with the other individual that I spoke with, and what I recommended that she do, and what we need to do to get out of this mess that we're in America today. And yes, we can get out of it. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. And we do have some spiritual assistance at our disposal. Mr. Anderson, if you could take us to a break. This is B.J. Edwards along, Mr. Anderson, your last call. Stephanie Mann, Safe Kids Now, our guest in the first hour.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with B.J. Edwards.
And why don't you bring Stephanie on, Mr. Anderson? I appreciate that. And good morning. Stephanie, by the way, co-authored Alternative to Fear Guidelines to Safer Neighborhoods, which helped launch the National Neighborhood Watch Program. Mann worked as a community leader, neighborhood organizer, county coordinator, state consultant, safe homes, safe neighborhoods, stopping crime where you live. Stephanie, good morning. Thanks for coming on such short notice. I read your article, and I want you to get into that, the article. But at the end of the article, you said something. But let's talk about the article that you wrote. And what point are you trying to get across, Stephanie?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for inviting me, BJ, and I loved your introduction. You're right on, because it's going to take we the people if we're going to stop crime and violence. Excuse me, it's early here in the West Coast. Anyway, the article I wrote was on, the power of the human spirit, basically. We have amazing children. All of our children have wonderful talents. They're born with them.
We really do. Yes, we really do. And that's something that we need to emphasize as well. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, some of the talents include they have an imagination. They have wonderful abilities to, they have hidden talents. They have a conscience to keep them safe if they listen to their own conscience. And if they don't, part of the problem is that if they do something wrong, like looting or stealing or creating bullying, what happens is they begin to be angry with themselves and take drugs to escape who they are. So we've got a huge problem here, and it's not just about kids. It's about the parents. They're growing up in child abuse homes. We spend $221 million a day on child abuse and neglect in this country.
Whoa, what?
$221 million a day on child abuse and neglect. And that's a terrible amount of money. And that's an awful lot of children that are being neglected and abused. And it's because we have lost our spiritual base in this country. And I think your listeners may know that. And we have forgotten about love thy neighbor. We are no longer connected to each other. For example, when the pioneers came west, what did they do when they protected each other? They circled the wagons. We need to circle the wagons in our neighborhoods because our children are growing up in very disturbed neighborhoods. I'm a crime and violence prevention consultant, and I didn't learn this just by sitting back and watching television. I work for Oakland Police Department, and they're one of the highest crime cities in America. As a crime and violence prevention consultant, I went out and actually helped people get organized in their neighborhoods. We had a call from one man who said he had a drug dealer on one corner and prostitutes on the other corner. And he was angry with the police department and said, "You guys got to get out here and clean this up. This is ridiculous. I've got a 10-year-old daughter and I want her to be safe. And she's not safe walking in this neighborhood." Well, they sent me out, and I encouraged him to get his neighbors together and get organized and start looking at what they could do, like taking down driver's license numbers, walk the dog, do simple things like sitting in the park playing checkers, water the lawn, and start taking down descriptions and time of day and license plate numbers. And within 3 months, we had cleaned up that neighborhood. But that was just one neighborhood. We've got to have a whole lot more activity in our neighborhoods, because I can't agree with you more. What they're doing in Washington, D.C. is a perfect start. That's a perfect start. Get rid of the guns that they can. And the biggest problem, is getting them in, the police come in there and they start taking down some of the really obvious problems, but there are a lot of hidden problems, and you will not know them unless you are involved. So thank you for mentioning that. It's critical they get involved.
Every human being is born strong, resilient spirit, and God-given talents, including imagination, intuition, creativity, insight, a sense of humor, hidden abilities yet to be discovered. The problem, and one of the, I guess the question that came to my mind when you went to the neighborhoods and you started talking to folks, what was your biggest resistance? And I'm assuming it's like, well, we can't do anything. We're not equipped to. It's like homeschooling. We don't have a master's degree in criminology. We don't have a doctor's degree in criminology. We're hopeless. We can't do anything. Did you kind of sort of run across that?
Oh, yes. But, their strength is their neighborhood power. Yes, we are not. For example, if you want to go down to city council and complain about a big pothole in your street, and it's just you, they're going to ignore you. You take down, 5 or 10 neighbors, and by golly, they're going to listen. It's the same thing. They listen. Power in people. Power is not an individual thing when it comes to turning our neighborhoods around. You can't do it by yourself. It's as simple as that. You need your neighbors.
So what did that look like initially? What baby steps? Did the community dive into it?
Well, how it looked at first, because how I got started in this business was in my community, we had a crime wave, and we didn't have any local police, and we didn't have any local government because we were unincorporated. So the 10 of us got together and we put a plan together, and we went and talked to our friends and said, we have got to take back charge of our own neighborhood safety because we don't have the enforcement we need with police. And we talked to the friends and they said, okay. And we had neighborhood meetings, and it took 2.5 years. And in our community of 17,000 people, 17,000 with 10 people running the show here, we reduced our own crime rate 48% within 2.5 years.
If you see a need, that's your calling, folks. You had choices. Stephanie, you knew what you were walking into. It was not going to be easy.
No, but it wasn't that hard because I had other support around me. There were 10 of us that sat at the table and said, we're not going to just sit here and talk about the problem, because when I got to Oakland, that's exactly, I organized a group, and they wanted to sit around and talk about the problem. And I said, you can't just sit here. We have got to get out and talk to our neighbors, our friends, and get them involved. If you don't get involved, how are you going to change anything? It's not going to happen. So the most important thing you can do is talk to people and say, we need to help each other here because crime is out of control.
I don't mean to be critical, Stephanie, but you're not perfect. And I'm sure that people criticized you for what you did or how you do it, right?
Yeah, well, of course, we had to take some flack. A lot of people said, I'm not going to do that. We didn't go to the people that said, we're not going to do that, because we went to the people that said, well, let me give you an idea. On our website, safekidsnow.com, we have a free download on how to organize your neighborhood. And you ask 3 questions. Go to your neighbors and say, hi, I live down the street at such and such an address, and I'm very concerned about crime in this neighborhood, or the problems of the kids, whatever it is. It could be the pothole. And ask 3 questions. Have you been a victim? What's your biggest concern in our neighborhood? And will you help? Now, the ones that say, I will help, those are the ones you pull together later and create a little group of people. It could be 2 or 3 people, and say, okay, what are we going to do? Okay, let's have a social gathering. Let's have a party. Let's have a block party. Let's plant a garden. There's all kinds of things citizens can do for themselves. And we don't need government, and we do not need a lot of police to make us safe. It's going to take we the people.
Yeah, and that's I could go into the article in May, but the end of the article was what really attracted me. I'm reading the article, I'm going, yeah, I agree. And then you said something that I've been saying for months, if not years. We need to stop focusing on I'm right and you are wrong.
That's deadly.
And instead work together to address the real issue, like kids killing each other. A young man killing innocent children in church isn't just a crisis we're exposed. It's a sign of that satanic behavior has been unleashed. But again, what we like to do, what we've been trained to do, what we've been conditioned to do, what we've been indoctrinated to do is just complain. Let somebody else take care of it. And I talked early on about a young lady that's thinking about becoming a public servant. And what I told her is that when you're a public servant, you're not a weightlifter. Okay, that's not your job to lift all the weight. That's the job of the people who elected you. And that's what you need to approach it from. They need to know that they're going to elect somebody to help them. I believe Donald Trump is somebody that can help us, but Donald Trump is taking all this on his own, too much on his own, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
And New York City needs to clean itself up. Chicago needs to clean itself up, but they keep electing people that work against them cleaning things up.
Mm-hmm.
And we've lost the concept of we the people, which our founders had, and they knew what they were talking about. They didn't want government to be ruling over we the people. They wanted we the people to be ruling over the government. But you can't do that if you're not doing anything. If you're sitting back and having your favorite adult beverage and watching your state game today, that's not what this is about. Mm-hmm. And 90 to 100,000 people, 50,000 people in a stadium, watching, cheering, booing. Yet very few of them get on the field. And you're to be commended. You're to be commended, young lady, for entering into this fray. Look, it's not easy. It's a lot of work, but it keeps your mind in a positive manner. It keeps it moving. You're continually thinking about things. You're not running. You're not hiding where you don't learn anything. And you get to run into wonderful people, like you get to run into me, Stephanie. And that's a blessing in itself, right? Of course. And all the other folks that are out there. But I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you're doing. And the focus is it safekidsnow.org or com?
Well, it's both, but okay. Safekidsnow.com is easy.
Okay. And I have to get into our disclaimer because Martin reminded me I have to do that. So I'm going to do this disclaimer shortly. But folks, listen, if you see a need, and you do see a need because that's what you're complaining about. If you run for school board, find somebody that'll run for school board. If they're too busy, that's the exact person you need, because you find a busy person, that's somebody that's going to be able to do the job for you. But do that. Get engaged. If you have children, if you have grandchildren, if you have nieces, nephews, they need your help. The enemy is standing in line to get into the game while you're up in the stands watching it. Go ahead, Stephanie.
BJ, we have 350,000 churches in this country.
Oh, boy.
If the pastors would just promote what they preach, love thy neighbor, and talk to the congregation about how important it is for you to know your neighbors and how easy it is to get to know them, just go out and knock on a door, we could turn this around. So what I'm looking for at this point is someone with influence with the churches, or, I need some help to get the word out about how easy this is. People think this is hard. No, this isn't hard. It's your neighbors. These are children growing up around you. You need to help know them and correct them, but you have to have everybody buy into it. When we were growing up, my neighbors would call me if my children got into trouble, and they did. It's not the greatest thing to have somebody call you and say, your son, 6 years old, was throwing mud clots at a building at somebody's home. So that gets corrected immediately. what we're not doing today is we're not correcting our children. There are no consequences for bad behavior in some homes because some of our people are drugged out. We have a terrible problem, and we're going to lose this country if we don't get involved. It's going to be your choice. But I can help you. I can talk to the churches, and I'm happy to do that, but I need to have that connection. Who are the influential people that I can talk to about this? Because it's not going to happen with just more cops on the beat or, the National Guard coming into our cities. Okay, that's great for the moment, but that's not going to save us. Believe me, it's not going to save us. I've seen them do it in Oakland, California, where I went on drug bus where they, dash in and they have cops on buildings. And I was with the chief of police when, they put cops rush out and literally tackle the drug dealers. And you should have seen the money flying and the drugs flying. I've seen it all. And I am sick of it. It doesn't have to be like this. It has to be that we get connected. It's going to take a generation to turn this back, but it's got to start somewhere. You've got to start, and you be the starter. It's not going to be me. I can only do what I can do, and that's tell people how they can do it, and the problems I've seen in our inner cities, in our communities, and it's going out into the suburbs. You are not exempt from this. This will happen. I live in a nice area, and we have burglaries. We had burglaries in our area, and so we formed neighborhood watch groups. And but that means that you got to get connected. It doesn't mean you just put up a sign or put a sticker on your door or get more security. Yes, that's going to help, but it's not going to change behavior. And of course, our children are paying a price. If there's a child that is being abused in the home, you're going to find out about it, and maybe you can help somebody. And let me tell you a little story, if I may. I was working in one neighborhood, and I went to the neighborhood meeting, and they got past talking about locks and bolts and how to protect your home. And one lady spoke up and she said, well, we've got 2 young boys in this neighborhood, 7 and 9. And she said, they're creating a lot of chaos. And she said, I called the police and they talked to the mother and nothing changed. And another man said, yeah, well, I tried to talk to the mother and the mother just slammed the door in my face. And they said, well, now another person in the neighborhood said, well, wait a minute, let's look at this. This is a problem for us, and we need to solve it. So they selected 2 tactful people in the neighborhood to go and talk to the mother. And of course, the mother was still a little upset and didn't want to talk, but they persuaded her, we're here to help. We're not here to blame. We can help you, but you've got to let us find out what we can do to help you. So she finally let them in, and they sat and talked, and she burst into tears. And she said, the boys have been out of control ever since their father was incarcerated. Well, then the neighbors, I was so thrilled that they decided to take those boys under their wing. And as a result of that, I saw her about 8 years later. I've been doing this a long time. And I said, how are the boys doing? And she said, oh my gosh, we've got one in junior college, and I've got another one that's in high school, and they're both doing great. And she said, I could not have done it without my neighbors. That's why you are important.
Wow.
That's why. Because you can change people's lives. You don't know what you're affecting, but connected people change people's lives.
You don't know till you try. You don't know till you try. I can guarantee you, if you don't do, well, you're not going to get the results because you're not doing it. Listen, you're not perfect. You're not going to be right every time out, but you're going to learn. You're going to learn by doing. You can read all the books you want. You're going to learn by doing, and you can learn from doers, like the young lady we have on the program today. Folks, if you don't share this 10, 15-minute segment with everyone you know, shame on you. Shame on you. Wow, we are presenting something that you can light a candle in your neighborhood. You can keep children from being abused. You can keep neighbors from being abused. Your grandchildren, nieces, nephews, etc. Hey, we're going to take a break. And when we come back from break, I'm going to have to get our disclaimer out of the road, and we'll get further into this participation sport here. BJ Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. This is your last call.
Catholic leaders say Pope Leo XIV is continuing a message of welcoming everyone within the church. The pontiff met with Father James Martin today, one of the most prominent advocates for the greater LGBTQ plus inclusion in the Catholic Church. Father Martin says in their discussion, Pope Leo encouraged him to continue his advocacy, as the Pope says he intends to continue Pope Francis's policy of LGBTQ plus acceptance in the Catholic Church.
I heard the same message from Pope Leo that I heard from Pope Francis, which is a desire to welcome all people, including LGBTQ people. So I think it's a continuation of that kind of approach, that kind of pastoral approach. If people were happy with Pope Francis's approach to LGBTQ Catholics, they're going to be happy with Pope Leo's approach. And he asked me to continue what I'm doing, which was very encouraging.
The meeting was officially
faith, discussion, and so much more. Last Call with BJ Edwards.
And we are back with our guest, Stephanie Mann. I guess that's the kind of church leadership you're looking for, right, Stephanie?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, you're listening to 2 hours of opinion and entertainment supplied by Last Call Radio. We're not doctors, lawyers, politicians, professional journalists, nor do either of us hold a doctorate degree in anything, not that would make any difference. Our opinion, of course. We only ask that you as an individual and or corporately not take our statements or those that we voice from others personal, nor do we recommend that you act on them as if they are facts, although they might very well be just that, facts, again, our opinion. You're not required to listen to, act on, or repeat anything you hear today, and that any information or opinion we represent is meant for the good of the order and by no means intended to harm or threaten anyone. And by the way, if we have a panel, if any panelists want to talk to our guest today, just unmute yourself and we'll bring you in and continue the conversation. Stephanie, I get so upset with, I'm going to bring James Bond in. Bond, are you with us, brother?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Well, I was all in until you started bringing up the limitation of my adult beverages.
Okay.
And on a serious note, though, BJ, you've been for years promoting this issue of the family, and I'm a lawyer by trade, and I see it weekly.
Bet you do.
The 25-year-old boy, the 29-year-old boy, the 32-year-old boy. And usually when I dig in, the family unit they came from was very difficult, if not dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not all bad young men. They're not all bad young men. But many of them come, and it crosses skin color, it crosses culture, it just is all over. But it's that breakup of the family. And I didn't like it when Hillary said, it takes a village to raise a kid or something like that. But I like the concept that has been shared here of the community and the neighborhood.
Yep.
Okay. I'm assuming at the forefront is, mom and dad is the leader of that community for the child.
When available.
But I moved in from the country about 4 or 5 years ago into a development, and I was kind of excited. In the country, nobody was around us, and we were kind of isolated. And so I came into the development. I was kind of excited that I might see somebody every day. I might wave at somebody. I might, maybe even invite somebody over for an adult beverage some night. But I tell you, if my community is anything like what is going on out there, people come home, they go through their door, they stay in their house, they come out maybe every couple of weeks, maybe for a family gathering, a birthday party or something, but then they go back in the house. Um, so, the communities are so, it just seems, at least my experience here, there's no, the neighborhood garage sale is a thing of the past. The neighborhood cookout, I haven't seen that here. Maybe I should organize it.
There you go. There
But
you go. You
but
see a
but
need.
the communities, and I wouldn't mind the young lady that's speaking today to talk about that, what she sees in the communities. Am I correct? Is my community any different? It says you come home, they close the door, and they come out every once in a while. What are your thoughts?
Thanks. Thanks, James.
Well, you're absolutely correct. And that's why we need to change that. But that's important for us to think about, because all of our neighborhoods have become a lot more isolated. And after COVID, we saw the social isolation really grab hold, because it's still with us. It was with us before, but now it's even more drastic, in my opinion, because people, it's pretty easy to just go turn your TV on and see what's going on and sit down with your adult beverage and watch the world go by. But we can no longer do that if we want to have an America, because it's going to take not just the village, but the neighborhood to come together. And, we help each other so much. If you're in a neighborhood and you have a child, maybe there's a grandmother that would be happy to babysit for you. You know how expensive it is to get a babysitter? Look around you, see if there are resources to help you to do what you want to do. Maybe you'd like to go to a movie sometime with somebody and have a dinner. Well, you don't know these people unless you get out and meet them. And maybe somebody's as lonely in their house as you are. Or, you're maybe not lonely. You have your own friends, but they're not the neighbors. So we have got to think about, okay, how can I connect with my neighbors? It's not that difficult. Just make that effort and I guarantee you will be rewarded. I met AJ Jelani in Richmond, California. He looked around his area, and he said, boy, I see a lot of single mothers here and a lot of children with no fathers. And so he became a role model for the 20 kids in his neighborhood, and he started Peace on the Streets. And every Christmas he had a big party for the kids, and he got everybody connected, and he has a wonderful neighborhood. Think about doing something at Christmas for the neighbors. He did. And as a matter of fact, that was a number of years ago. And the kids are coming back to say to AJ Jelani, thank you so much. You kept me out of the gangs. Well, that's what we need. We need people to connect with neighbors, talk to the kids. Maybe they don't have any guidance at home, but you can be a helper in that. You can be a guidance for that. And unless we connect with each other, we're in very bad shape.
I'm adverse to rejection. What you're asking me to do is put myself in a position where people might not agree with me, might not like me, and might reject me.
Move on to the next house.
Do you have a list of things you can do on your site, by the way? But you're talking about
the fact that you can start taking some notes about, what do you see in your neighborhood? Do you see a lot of kids? Maybe not. Do you see a lot of retirees? Maybe. Do you see a reason? Loneliness is a huge problem here. So make a list of people and say, I would like to introduce you to somebody, or let's get together and talk. Maybe you only have one neighbor that you know. Well, get that neighbor together and say, okay, what can we do in this neighborhood to bring it together? You don't have to know everybody. And matter of fact, when we started having neighborhood meetings in my neighborhood, not everybody came. We were lucky enough to have at the bottom of our hill, we had a circle of houses down there. So we had met down in that area, and people saw in the circle didn't actually come, some of them, but when we had a meeting down there or got together, eventually they showed up. It's funny, but people don't want to be left out. Eventually they'll say, oh, I don't want to do that. If you have a very small crowd, don't worry about it. Next time you'll have a bigger and bigger crowd, but they have to see you being consistent or your group being consistent. And that makes all the difference.
Amen. Norm.
Yes, Miss Stephanie, good to see you again. It's been a while since you were on.
Good to see you.
I'm sitting here thinking, and I believe that what you're doing is about to explode. And let me explain. With what President Trump is doing, he's gone into D.C. and he's cleaned that up, and we've got some concerns about that. But if you can reach out to the people there while it's clean and begin to get things organized to keep it that way, because he's not going to stay there forever. No. I really think President Trump has a strategy here. Early on when he went into D.C., the mayor was not in favor of it at all. And there's not a Democrat in America that wants Donald Trump to come in and clean up their city, because he's getting the credit for it. And I believe that his strategy is, if he goes in and cleans up 2 or 3 cities, and these mayors say, look, he's getting the credit for this. If we don't clean up our city, he's going to. And so I don't think his long-term range is to put troops in all the major cities. But I do think, like I said, if he cleans up 2 or 3, they're going to have to wake up, because, again, you see the mayor of D.C. turned around this week and said, hey, we're really grateful, because, see, that's political on her part. She's smartening up because the people see that he's cleaning it up. People are getting out and going. The businesses that had restaurants that had closed are opening back up, and people are getting out. And so it's very popular, from a political point of view, from that point of view. So I think if you can begin to reach out to those cities that are beginning to clean it up, and I know that's a big task, but
I need help with that, Norm. Are you going to help me?
Well, if I can, I sure will.
That would be great.
You'll be connected. You'll be connected. I got James Bond, who's going to have a cookout and doesn't know it.
Okay.
And I've got you that are going to help Stephanie. So,
Sure.
hey, listen, you're listening to Last Call Radio, where you can see the difference. BJ Edwards along Mr. Anderson. That'll serve as our break today, because I want to continue the conversation. Norm, anything else to add?
Yeah, one more thing. You stated, which you're correct, America has more people in prison than anybody else. And the reason that we do is because government did not follow God's instructions on punishing evil promptly. And so now we're dealing with the consequence of our disobedience.
Absolutely.
And so that's again, if you read through, which I just did this week, reading through Deuteronomy, you see all the curses for disobedience. Boy, they are severe, and that's where we're at. When we disobey God, we bring a curse on ourselves, and then again we deal with the symptom, which the root is the disobedience of the family, and disobedience of the church, and disobedience of the government to do their role, and that's why we're in the mess we're in. And again, BJ, you're the number one promoter of the family in the country, and I'm number 2. So I totally agree that it's got to start with the family. That's where Miss Stephanie is working on too. It's got to be family.
Absolutely. Well, Norm, I would appreciate your help. That would be wonderful. If you can make some contacts in Washington, D.C., let's see what we can do.
Okay.
Great. I don't know whether we can bring Clement or not, Mr. Anderson. Can we? It looked like he wanted to say something.
Am I allowed? Oh,
yeah. You're on.
I didn't know it was done.
Clem, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm there. Hang on just a second. I'll
Okay.
come in a minute. I got a little questions going on here. Hang on.
All right. Stephanie, I love, see, we've already accomplished a couple things this morning. James Bond is going to have a cookout in his neighborhood, huh? And you're going to get help in Washington, D.C.
I love it.
Yeah. And that's, I can't guarantee success, folks, but I can guarantee you're going to learn. I make the statement that I don't always win the battles I'm in, but I learn a lot, and that God loves me enough to let me lose most of the time. So that's you got to take advantages out of that. Stephanie, I don't know whether they're going to be able to bring Clem on, but what if you could give my neighborhood? I'm a known Christian, okay, and I'm a known political activist, and I have strong things I can back up, but the community that I live in isn't necessarily enthralled with me. So if I try to start a conversation with somebody, there's going to be a basic assumption there that I think I'm right and they're wrong, or vice versa. How does somebody like myself get engaged with that? And I think Bushman has a comment for us as well, but go ahead.
Well, I've worked with people from all walks of life, and all you have to do is smile and say something nice about, your house looks great, or whatever. And people respond. They like to be acknowledged. People like to know that they are heard and say, I'd really like your opinion. So ask them questions. What do you think about the neighborhood? Do you think we need to get together? And I wouldn't tell them, I would ask them, because asking people what they think about doing something, you will get a response like, oh, that people don't care, or nobody does anything here, or yeah, that's a great idea. Let's try it. But I think you have to start off on a friendship basis. If you know them and you think they're going to judge you, forget that. Just go and be yourself and personable. That's my.
Bushman has a statement or two or a question. And what I'm going to say is, I'm not going to start the conversation off with, you know what, I think we need more Christians in the neighborhood. That's not going to do very well in that comment. I need to bring it down. I need to speak in tongues, if you will, speak in their language. Things that I don't think are really going to help that much, but something that they may be interested in. And that's not hard to find out what they're interested in. That's important. Go ahead, McBushman. Fire away.
Stephanie, once again, I remember you being on Last Call with BJ Edwards a few years ago, and I was just so moved by what you do. And I just want to ask you, how, if to the average person watching, the person that's saying, you know what, I would like to get started. I see kids in my neighborhood. I see parents, doesn't look like they're married. It may be a dad, it may be a mom, because I only see the kids with just that one person. What would you say, Stephanie, to inspire the person watching today's program to go ahead and get involved?
Great question. Thanks, Martin.
I would say that it does so much for you. As BJ said, you grow through it. You find people that you didn't know that maybe they disagree with you politically, but they're really nice people. I work with a lot of Democrats. I work with a lot of atheists and homosexuals. I've worked with them all. And underneath, everybody is basically, just want to be cared about, want to be heard. And all of us really need community. I don't care who you are. So, just go out and be yourself. Be yourself and be genuine, because I think that's critical to making relationships work. I don't know if that helps or not, but that's what I do.
Great advice. How can we help you other than than the cookout we're going to have and helping out with Washington, D.C. Can people contact you? What are the one or two things that you would recommend that folks need? And we got about 5 minutes, Stephanie.
Okay, well, what I need is, I appreciate what Norm said. Let's go with reaching out to Washington and finding the movers and shakers. I would love to work with Norm and do that. So, because everybody knows that this is coming back. This crime is going to come back into the community unless we do something different. So we've got to persuade people that neighborhood support is critical for making our families safe. But what I need is people that will talk to their church leaders about promoting love thy neighbor. Hey, that should be easy. And I've done it in my church, and people are receptive. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to do it without you. They're going to need you to help them to get started. And go get the book or a pamphlet that we've got, the free download on safekidsnow.com. And just it'll come right on your computer, and you can print it out if you like. And that should help you. And, think about the people that you have in your neighborhood that you've never talked to. Give it a try. Go, what do you got to lose? Just ring the doorbell and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm here because I'm concerned about the neighborhood. And I just wanted to talk to you about the possibility of having a meeting. And have you been a victim? What is your biggest concern in the neighborhood? And will you help me put a meeting together or a gathering or whatever you want to do, a barbecue or a Sunday outing of some sort, or plan something for the kids. I see a lot of kids in this neighborhood. Maybe we can plan something for the kids, kickball or whatever. So there are a lot of things citizens can do. And if we're sitting back and waiting for somebody else to do it, it's not going to happen. We have to take responsibility for our own. If we're Christians, this is something we need to do.
Do radio, folks. Do radio. Clem, try to bring Clem on if you can. I think you want to make a comment, and we're going to have to take off. Go ahead, Clem.
Hey, I love what she's saying. It's absolutely essential that you begin with community, but we also need to analyze why there's a success in DC right at the moment. It's got nothing to do with community. It's got really nothing to do with the Trump administration. It's got to do with putting law enforcement of whatever nature you want to call them in place that are beyond the scope of the local judges. I'll give you an example. When the police arrest the drug dealer, in 5 minutes, he's made bail and he's out on the street. So the next time, the police become the vigilante by taking the law into their own hands and saying, we're not going to bother with that. It's just not worth the time. But if crazy dad, takes the drug dealer out with a 2x4, he's going to get arrested and go to jail. We've got a law. We don't have a law problem. We have a justice problem.
Amen.
And until you can mete out justice properly with love, but with a firm hand, you're not going to be successful. So although I totally agree with what your principle is, we have to have a multi-pronged approach. Absolutely. And we have to also understand that sometimes love sounds like hate to those that hate the truth.
Thanks, Clem.
You're absolutely right. We do need a multi approach here. What they're doing in Washington, D.C. is a start. That's all it is. They're taking guns off the streets. They are arresting people that have committed crimes that they can see. But there is an awful lot happening behind closed doors. And that's why we need to get the neighbors together, because you can begin to tell what's happening in your neighborhood. For example, we saw, Barbara was in, what town is she in? Well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, she saw crime going on in her neighborhood, and the city council voted to close the whole park and put a fence around it because the drug dealers had taken over. Now that's an obvious problem, but we've got child abuse in our homes, and the child abuse is what's really keeping us from progressing, because these children are just like little animals coming out. They bully in schools. I can't tell you how many teachers have told me, I can't even teach my class. I've got 2-3 students in a class of 30, and they are fighting each other. They're constantly, and she said, I can't take them out of the class because they say you can't take them out and you can't leave them in the school. The school principal won't keep them in their office all the time. So she's trying to deal with disruption in the school and disruption of her class and teach at the same time. It doesn't work. No wonder our schools aren't working. We've got too many little, these parents are not doing their job of empowering kids. And I've written Magical You to Empower Youth with what you've already got inside of yourself and what you ought to bring out. Magical You is for, let me show it to you. This is a book for young people, and it's empowering teens to stay safe and healthy in an unsafe world. And this one is for parents, empowerment parenting. You know, how to raise resilient children who become safe, happy adults. And this was translated into Chinese for kids at risk in Taiwan, China. Now, I've been working on this stuff for a long time. I can tell you that if you've got some problems in your own home, or you know of somebody that has a problem, talk to them about, you know, have you ever considered looking at this information? And my I've got 6 books on Amazon, you know, to help empower families and children. And we can stop this, but you've got to talk about it. You've got to get out and help people. And if you don't know how to help people, just read one of these books. I've got all this information about the neighborhoods and about the power of the human spirit. And you may not know that I was abandoned at age 15 in Mexico City, and I didn't speak the language. I figured out how to survive. Now, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I've got it. It's not necessarily my story. It's everybody's story.
Amen. Stephanie, we're gonna have to go. Stephanie Mann, safekidsnow.org or .com, for heaven's sakes, go to that site. Tell your friends, your neighbors about it. Get engaged in the culture, folks, and get your church engaged. Love thy neighbor. Great, great approach. And folks, we're sending abused children, victims, into a godless political institution.
Yeah.
Shame on us, really.
Yes.
And we can't even get in. We can't decide what shots they need. We can't decide what they're going to be taught. Shame, shame, shame. Thanks, Stephanie. God bless you. Godspeed. We'll get you back on soon.
Can I just give the, if anybody wants to contact me,
sure.
Just go to just email me at safeneighborhoods, plural, @gmail.com.
Safe Neighborhoods, plural, @gmail. Safe Neighborhoods, plural, @gmail. Thank you, Stephanie. God bless you. Godspeed. We're going to bring Dick Manesaeri on the second hour, and I think we can go ahead and lead in with that video that you have, Mr. Anderson, after we do the break. B.J. Edwards, along Mr. Anderson. This is your last call.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, share this. For heaven's sakes, share this. Again, B.J. Edwards, along Mr. Anderson. This is
keeping you informed. This is Last Call with B.J. Edwards.
Top of the morning, y'all. I want to jump right to the point because we're going to be sitting around a tailgate pretty soon with our friends. We're going to be watching college football this weekend, and we want to talk freely. This video right here is as freely as I can talk. I saw a comment just a few weeks ago that said, buddy, we really appreciate you so much because you never hold anything back in your videos. And I just want to tell her, you have absolutely no idea how much I hold back when I'm actually doing these. You know, that being said, there is a growing call. It started across social media, then it went into schools. Now it's made its way into private conversations, members of the church, in a very, very non-joking fashion, that it's time to bring back the Crusades. And look, it's just a fact that there are certain people in the world who will never, ever assimilate into our culture, especially Western culture. They want to be here. They want to consume everything that we've built, everything we've created, everything that we've invented, but they want nothing to do with being who we actually are. There was a teacher in Germany just yesterday, and she was interviewed in a German newspaper. She's called Nadine M. She wanted to remain anonymous. She teaches a collective learning school type of curriculum in northern Rhine-Westphalia. Okay, this is in Germany, where the student body is 98% immigrants. She described to the Welt newspaper how lessons are impossible to teach. The students don't speak a word of German. They have no idea what German even is. The teachers are often insulted and even spat on. Nadine has been a teacher at this school for over 15 years, and she said over that time, the entire school has descended into absolute chaos. The students have no desire to ever integrate, and the parents are openly hostile to the teachers and even the entire idea of an education system. Europe, you have imported the third world, and now y'all have become the third world. We've all seen the videos coming out of Scotland and Sweden and the UK and Ireland and Austria. Austria now complying with Sharia law. This is not fake, y'all. Look it up. Austria is complying with Sharia law. This is why none of the name calling works on American conservatives anymore. We watch the news and we see every single day in your country that your women are being assaulted. They're being kidnapped in the streets. They don't feel safe anywhere by migrants that you let in. Your police is arresting you for stuff that you said because you have no free speech or you have no guns. And we see. We as Americans, we see. So there's no name that you could possibly call us anymore that would ever appeal to our emotions enough to get us to take on any kind of liberal viewpoint, is what I'm saying. After all the horrific views, you know, the videos that we have to watch every single day over here in America coming out of your collapsed country. And you say, well, buddy, we did this because we wanted to show empathy. Screw your empathy. Look where it got you. Does a cancer patient walk in there and find out from his doctor he has stage 4 cancer and have empathy for the cancer cells and say to his doctor, we have to be empathetic to these cells. I think they have a right to stay. That's the absolute most foolish thing you could ever imagine. America, as far as I see it, has at least 3.5 years left of hardcore freedom on a scale the world has never even imagined. I think the European mind can't even conceive. If, God forbid, it falls into the hands of a left-wing extremist, then we're going to have this exact conversation over here 3.5 years from now. But right now, Europe, I say to you, you better assemble. I would suggest praying and looking to that ancient spirit that I know is deep down inside of you, because when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government to provide new guards for their future security. That is our Declaration of Independence. We meant it back then, and we mean it right now. Europeans, you have no future. Neither do your children or grandchildren, unless you start thinking 11th century, 12th century, 13th century, and circle the wagons. Look, y'all, awaken your faith and the rest will follow. God bless you. Be good.
Keeping you informed. This is Last Call with BJ Edwards.
Those that forget history are destined to repeat it. Let's get more specific about that item Buddy was talking about. Why don't you bring Mr. Manesaeri in, Mr. Anderson? Dick Manesaeri, welcome back, brother. We do appreciate you, what you've been doing. Just a reminder for those, we're going to have some new listeners. So just a reminder, your basic background, how you came to be dealing with what you're dealing with, Mr. Manesaeri.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you've had us on before, and this is a multifaceted topic. Today we're going to talk about Islam. It's a worldwide goal to take over countries, not just in Europe, but our own country. And the reason I'm involved is just because for family reasons, we moved into a place that's pretty far gone, that what we call the state of Michigan, and we experienced Islam firsthand. And as a result of that, we got involved, and we got blessed with some very, very good people. One of the reasons we have the detail we have this morning is that 7 years ago, we actually had people from outside the United States and outside of Michigan come to help us, because at that moment we had a candidate for governor who was a devout Muslim, devout leftist, and had growing attraction. He came in second, but he got 350,000 votes. We had some people from other countries, including England. The gentleman the video with Buddy was very important. Europe is very much on the road to it destructing of its own culture, its own livelihood. You can go to Britain and you won't see Britain. And if you go on a tourism, you'll be attracted to the things they want to show you. But as a country, the British are having a hard time finding their own British community in the midst of a fundamental transformation of that country. And as a result of that, back then, BJ, we actually had people from England come and help us, and that's part of our story today. We're going to tell the story about why is it actually possible for a Western country to be fundamentally transformed to accept Islam, and not just accept Islam, but become immersed and basically give away the principles of their own country to do more than accommodate Islam. Islam, by its very definition, is not to be accommodated. They are not going to assimilate. They will get the foot. It's the camel's nose under the tent. Then the camel moves deeper into the tent, and eventually the camel owns the tent and pushes the other people to the side. So very good. Yeah, there's some great, there are some great comedy. I don't know if we can see that big enough. That's a great video. By the way, this is material that's available. We can talk about it perhaps later, but this is showing the camel's nose in the tent, being accepted, not kicked out, and gradually the enormous camel moves into the tent and you are nudged outside. That is what's happening in England, in Sweden, Germany, and France. And we want to give you evidence today, as unthinkable as it might be, that could be and actually is happening in America. The nose is in the tent, and the determination would be to see whether Americans keep the rest of the camel outside of the tent.
Can you give me some examples of the nose in the tent?
Sure. If we're going to talk about a couple of different things, let me start with this. I don't know if Kevin can keep with this, but it's really important. We assume that conservatives on the right side would never allow this to happen. The conservatives, in fact, let's be specific, the Republicans, the current leadership would never allow America to embrace Islam to the point where America is moved aside. Well, wait a minute. Most conservatives, many of your listeners may, and many of my friends talk about Newsmax being a very important news source. Well, wait a minute. Newsmax published on July 17th, a full professionally done documentary called Muslims Find a Home. And it was rebroadcast. And this is a story about how America is accepting Islam as a fundamental part of our political system. And the politicians on both sides are going after the Muslim money and the Muslim vote and accommodating Islam in the country, despite the fact it's antithetical to the Constitution, meaning it is a replacement for the Constitution. But somehow politicians like Islam. There's something about money and power. And so this 1 hour propaganda piece was shown by this conservative news media. Well, wait a minute. It turns out that Newsmax accepted $50 million from a very rich country called Qatar. And Qatar is a Muslim country. It's the richest country in the world per capita. And they have a major, major impact in the United States. We'll talk about that in detail later. So part of the story here is that we have made it very, very comfortable for Islam. and the politicians have embraced them and want to pull them into their party. Unfortunately, we're going to talk about what Islam is and what it means in just a minute. This is really antithetical to the whole idea of America being a free republic, where we the people define the government and maintain it through our representation in our Constitution. But I want to be clear: Donald Trump is certainly better than the alternative. But we're going to ask some questions and invite people to think through. Why did Donald Trump have a courtship with Islam during the election? His campaign went to Michigan, sought the endorsement, aggressive endorsement of the Muslim community. Specific Muslim leaderships were courted. They made their endorsements. He got the vote. And then he basically rewarded those people by bringing Muslims into the administration in very profound ways. There are two ambassadors representing the United States of America who came from Michigan and were part of the campaign to elect Donald Trump. One was the mayor of Hamtramck. He's now an ambassador, etc. So we're going to talk about that some more. But the point here is a major news broadcast sugarcoated the situation of Muslims finding a home in America when they will not assimilate. VJ,
I'm going to make a note here. Qatar is a Muslim nation.
Thank you. That's right.
Those
Qatar
you didn't know.
I'm
and
sorry.
Secondly, go ahead.
It is 100%. It's like Iran. We call it the Islamic Republic of Iran. Well, Qatar doesn't use that, but they are an Islamic republic. Their leadership are definitely Ayatollah type people. They're very, very rich, and they have a major impact, partly because of their finesse. They sound like they're your friend when they're actually behind your back, basically bringing influence and power that will actually change the nature of your country. Another good example of the courtship, which just happened yesterday, BJ, and I had to jump on this one. So Eric Adams is the mayor of New York. He's running for re-election. He basically established a happy birthday parade and celebration for Muhammad. Well, wait a minute, Muhammad was born 1,500 years ago. Why is the mayor of New York having a parade loaded with people? I don't know if we can see the picture or not, but there's loads of people having a parade almost to make a holiday out of Muhammad's birthday. There are 1 million Muslims in New York, but there's also 1.3 million Jews, and just a whole lot of other people who don't know who Muhammad is and really don't care. But why would the mayor of New York make Muhammad's 1,500th birthday? Well, this is part of the point. The fundamental transformation of countries and cities like London and England, and perhaps even a place like New York, is because politicians get comfortable with Islam, because Islam has lots and lots of money and can discipline their people and produce votes and power. So this is a major concern. By the way, who was Muhammad and why would you ever celebrate this person? Well, he's a man who led wars. He ordered killings. He married a child, and he claimed absolute dictator level authority over all of his people, and he conquered major parts of the world. So we're talking about a murderer, pedophile, and people in New York City are celebrating his birthday 1,500 years after his birth. Before we go on, let's also go back to we've had previous broadcasts. BJ, thank you so much. You are an outlet for what we believe to be the truth, and this outlet is very narrow, and we appreciate your repeated interest. Well, Muslims, by the way, we're not against individual Muslims. Every single Muslim is created in the image of God. We understand that. Unfortunately, they are trapped in a ideology that is detrimental to their eternal salvation and our own personal safety as well. So what are they taught? What is the goal of Islam? Well, their law is called Sharia, and there's no question that Sharia and the imams that promote Sharia in 3,400 mosques in America are basically on a target which Sharia promotes, that America should become an Islamic nation. Well, how could that ever happen? Well, remember, there were Christians all over the Middle East and North Africa until Muhammad came in with his armies, and these people were transformed completely into Islamic nations. That happened in Egypt and Tunisia and Lebanon. It actually happened in large parts of Spain. It happened in Albania and many other places. So becoming an Islamic nation, making that happen, is part of what these people are taught every day when they go to the mosque and they learn about Sharia. So Muhammad wanted worldwide domination. And basically, if you think about that, we have people in America promoting Sharia law over the Constitution. Well, that's a crime. It's called sedition. When's the last time anybody in America was indicted for sedition? It doesn't happen because people are not that concerned about losing their constitutional freedoms. And that's just part of our problem with our country, our neighbors, etc. So in the last week, there was a conference in Detroit, the People's Conference for Palestine, and openly with U.S. representatives, House of Representatives people in participation, the speakers from America called for destroying the idea of America, calling America an evil nation. Basically, these are people who will rally in the streets for Palestine. They will basically call for the end of Israel and the end of America. That's happening on American soil. I know we have freedom of speech, but we need to recognize when you call for ending the idea of America, is there anything treasonous about that? And does anybody really care?
Dick, yeah. We're going to take a break, but just for clarification for the folks that are listening.
Sure.
We are a constitutional republic. People that get elected to office sign, take a pledge, and they're serving under the Constitution. Except when it comes to Muslims, they cannot do that. Their allegiance can never be to anything else other than their, I'll call it a religion. Other folks use other words to describe it, but you need to understand that. And we're going to take a break. And when we come back, before you go any further, Dick, there are two states of Islam. First of all, let's define what Islam means. And then the states that somebody that practices Islam or practices the Muslim religion, they're in two states. We need to define what those two states are. BJ Edwards along with Mr. Anderson. This is your last call. Thank you, Dick.
You don't dare!
Yes, you have a knife.
You don't! Hey, I'm fucking profit! You're fucking bad and
why are you fucking with us?
These are fucking kid bashers!
Show the knife! Show the knife! Show the knife!
Get away from us!
Show the knife! Show the knife!
Don't touch it!
That's it! That's it! Show the knife!
Get my way!
Show the knife! That's it!
Don't fucking touch my little sister! She ain't fucking 12! Where's her fucking touching me? She's fucking 12 and you just battered me, mate! Where's my fucking touching me?
Yeah, show the knife! Maratha!
Don't touch her gun to me! Don't touch her!
We were on with Dick Manesaeri. Martin's going to have to leave, so he had a question he wanted to ask. Let me bring him on here if I can find him. There we go. I got him. Martin, go ahead, please.
It's always great to be found, and Merry Muhammad to you, Dick. I would like to ask you, sir, for the average American, as we see an influx of the Muslim community come to our towns, our cities, what would you advise your average American to do, sir? And I appreciate all your work. Thank you, BJ.
Thanks, Martin.
Well, thank you, Martin. Well, we're going to keep talking about that. I think as a minimum, it would be time to do your homework and try to find people that have experienced Islam firsthand, whether it's in America or in Europe, and just learn from other people, because we are shielded. Islam is sugar-coated by some of our churches, by the way. So one of the things I would invite them to do is be very, very careful. If your church is involved in interfaith dialogue with Muslims, be very, very careful, critique your own church and challenge them. And the reason I'll just give you the specifics on that, ask your pastor why you would do interfaith dialogue with a group who believes that Jesus is not the Son of God, Jesus was not crucified, and that your everyday guidance should come from a paraclete who is not the Holy Spirit of the Bible, but is Muhammad himself. I guess what I'm trying, and that sounds shocking perhaps, why would you want Muhammad, a murderous pedophile, whispering in your ear throughout the day as your comforter and your shepherd? So I guess that, to me, we have a problem. It has been aggressively sugar-coated, not just by politicians, but by pastors. Be on the lookout for that. And if you have a church that's involved in that, do your homework and be prepared. But ask those 3 questions of the pastor. Why would you have interfaith dialogue with somebody that doesn't believe that Jesus was crucified or is the Son of God?
Good question. Islam, what does it mean?
Islam is a 7th century ideology that was created by Muhammad, who believed that he had visions, and he basically created, he took from ideas from Judaism and from actually paganism and the tribes around him. Even he had association with some level of Catholicism. He created his own notion and had conversations with Allah. If you look at the Quran, if you want to simplify it, if you look at what Allah is saying in the Quran, which is their Bible, Allah sounds a lot like the devil. Basically, if you want to think about, so for example, the writings of Muhammad basically define what's called Sharia law. This is the way you're supposed to behave. It sanctions things which we in America think are criminal. And so, for example, Sharia sanctions the rape of uncovered women. It basically treats women as property, treats children as property. Young girls can be married to older men because Muhammad married a 6-year-old young lady named Aisha and consummated the marriage when she was 9. It basically makes, so Sharia, the Muhammad ideology, says that this law, Sharia, is the supreme law of the land, and no country where Muslims move that have to migrate to, its constitution is to be replaced either radically or gradually over time with Sharia law. So these behaviors, which are criminal, including punishment, for example, if you steal something, it's okay to cut off your hands. Women have no rights after a divorce. A divorce is basically done by a man. Women lose access to their children. They have no support, etc. These are all part of the detailed behavior that you're supposed to follow. Honor killing is part of. So if your family, if your young daughter begins to associate with a young man at high school and moves away from the mosque activity, dishonors the family, dishonors the mosque, the imam, the father, the mother, the brother are able to kill the daughter. This is called an honor killing. So these are radically immoral activities that are sanctioned, and the people that believe this and want this to be the way we live in America are called Muslims. They go to mosques. So this is what Sharia is. This is what Islam is. But it's very, very effective. It's been around 1,400 years. It typically does not go away. One of the messages is once they get to a critical mass, which you can see happening in London and in Europe, in certain cities in America we're going to talk about, you don't get to push back. There's 2 different states, as BJ said. There's the state when they don't have the power and they come into a country and they, we would say they play nice. They involve themselves in schools and politicians, and they gradually participate. When they get a certain critical mass, then they go into what's called the upper house, and they demand the combinations. They create a notion of fear. So in this state called the upper house, there is no assimilation. There might have been some promise of assimilation earlier. When they're powerful, they, of course, will demonstrate their lack of assimilation, and they will put it in your face. And what we were looking at in the video from Kevin, that's a young girl in Scotland who's had enough. She was basically accosted by Muslim men who think it's okay to take advantage of children and adult women who are not covered. It's okay to not just molest, completely rape them, and that's acceptable under Sharia. These are not Muslim women. These are not Muslim girls. Therefore, they can be sexually assaulted, and it's okay. This young lady was protesting, trying to protect herself with a knife and a hatchet because the police were not defending her. And when she went public and tried to get protection from the local police, the police refused to deal with Sharia crime, sanctioned crime. Police walk away from it, and there's famous stories in England about grooming gangs that have been not arrested and brought to justice for 15 years. There's tens of thousands of young girls in England who have lived in these grooming gangs because the politicians and the police will do nothing. And I think that's why that video was relevant.
And the reason they don't do anything is because they've been conditioned. And that's what's going to happen. That is sort of kind of what's happening now. We've given certain sects of people spatial privileges and abilities to do special things that other folks can't do because we've been brainwashed into, well, we can't discriminate against anybody or anything. Okay, and you can't make them feel bad, and shame on you if you do so. They take the good hearted Americans and abuse them. We got a couple of minutes before break, Dick. Go ahead.
Real quick, I can't overemphasize the interfaith dialogue. This is so detrimental to America continuing as a country. If you tolerate other people who not only want to take over your Constitution, but they are immoral in their behavior, why would you do that? And I think there is documented evidence, major religious organizations in America that accommodate Islam and actually identify Islam as a faith partner. Well, why would a quote Christian / Catholic church with the principles that started out in the Bible, even if they were modified through adding tradition and other things, why would you ever identify a faith partner? This means people that you want to work with. You don't want to change their faith. You want to blend their faith, your faith, and have kumbaya, one growing way of living, a religious, one world religion, perhaps. So this is the reason that one reason it's accommodated, and it's accommodated at the local level. And so we could talk about that if that makes sense. But let's go back to how could Britain, a united nation with its own culture, allow itself to be destroyed internally? And what are the lessons for us to learn when we look at parts of America where this is happening, and it's happening aggressively? And we have very visible political campaigns on the horizon that are going to make this even more obvious for people, even if they don't want to. If they don't want to adopt it, they can certainly pay attention to what's happening in New York City right now and become offended by what's happening with the election that's 2 months away.
Amen. Amen. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I think James Bond signaled he might have a question or a comment. B.J. Edwards, along with Mr. Anderson, we're speaking to Mr. Dick Manesaeri.
Last Call with B.J. Edwards. Real talk about real life.
And we are back. I don't know whether I can catch James Bond there or not. There he is. James, did you want to come in, sir?
Yes. Wow. What a good program today, BJ.
Thanks, brother.
Just a good program. Wow, sir. So many questions. I think this is what I want to ask first, and BJ knows me, so he understands my heart. Why are we wanting to witness to Muslims?
Well, we're worried about their eternal soul, their eternal salvation.
Okay, but doesn't the Bible talk about that he turns them over to their reprobate minds?
Absolutely.
So,
This is the exact conflict we should discuss.
because I view the Muslim he's a danger. He's a threat to my Lord and Savior, the mighty name of Jesus Christ. He is
Amen.
not welcoming to my faith. He wants to destroy my faith. And more importantly, and I'm no Bible expert, but this idea, the Bible's pretty clear. There's times that they're turned over to their reprobate mind, and they're forgotten. It's move on. And I think this idea that we need to witness to them and share the gospel, it sounds very Christian, but my comment probably doesn't sound very Christian. I don't buy into this that we need to try to save them and put our energies into all that. They are evil. They practice evil. We're not to be around evil. They have turned away from God very much in their own mind and soul. What are your thoughts?
I'm going to have to go
Well, I
over
could
our
not agree.
Go ahead, Dave.
I couldn't agree with you more, sir, and I agree with you in every aspect. But I want to make it clear, we have a major dichotomy here. And I was raised a Catholic. I'm not a practicing Catholic now, but I want to make this really clear. I think people who were raised with the Bible maybe don't understand Catholicism and Catholicism today. We love our Catholic neighbors and we appreciate our Muslim individually. It's the ideologies that are in conflict with our ability to have a country that's based on freedom and to pursue our own salvation. Let me make a point related to your comment. When I grew up, well, there's a challenge here, and I'll just be very specific. Clem, if you go to the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, you will see, and you put in their website, USCCB, you will put up Islam. You will see page after page of very favorable remarks about Islam. So in contrast to what you said, Clem, and what I believe, the Catholic Church, for some reason, which could discuss, in 1965, turned 180 degrees and said that salvation is available to all, especially Islam. So it is the Catholic Church, one of the largest religions in the world, 1.8 billion people, who is seeking a faith partnership with the 1 million Muslims of the world. Why is that? But that is absolutely the case. So I agree with what you said. Islam as a religion, Sharia law, is not just unconstitutional, it is a direct assault on the Bible and what Bible people believe. And again, our Constitution is based on the Bible. So we have not just a lack of assimilation, we have antagonism and an attempt to overthrow countries like England, but also countries like America. Our own heartland is in the process of being transformed fundamentally by the people that want to bring Islam in and make it acceptable. The sad thing is, official position of the Catholic bishops in America is that Islam is to be embraced in a very special way, and that people who practice Sharia, Muslims, will go to heaven, even though they practice things that we think are criminal. That is the position of the Roman Catholic Church since 1965, fully embraced by Pope Francis and Pope Leo. I'd be happy to go into detail if anybody wants more on that. That's a very sad and difficult to say that, but direct to your position is we have a conflict in America. Major parts of our population think Islam is okay and are not afraid of it, despite the criminal behavior that it promotes.
James, any other comments? You're
James
muted.
is muted.
Could it be that they're being apologetic for the Crusades? Maybe maybe they're trying to gather favor because of the Crusades.
I think
Let's face for a second, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a historian. Had it not been for the Crusades, had it not been for that war where the various Christian aspects rose up, Europe would all be Muslim. Am I wrong?
That was certainly the tendency that was going on, and that the attack on Europe was stopped in 1273 in Spain and in 1643 in Vienna. So yeah, there were the uprising to stop that. But what I'm getting at is it's 180-degree turn for some reason, which I think we could talk about. The Catholic Church is embracing Islam as a faith partner and basically identifying the fact that salvation is available to all, except, especially Islam. That is a quote from paragraph 845 of the Roman Catholic Catechism. It was changed. And why is that? Let's face it, there's two organizations. The Vatican is basically wants all the Christian religions to report to the Vatican under the power. Islam wants one world religion under Islam. They figured out together that they could work together. At the end of the Bible, we talk about one world religion and Revelation. It turns out one world religion is almost here. If you take the billions of people involved in the Catholic Church and Islam, and you add to that the other people that attend one world religion meetings around the world, including the Buddhists, the Orthodox, the Hindus, they are coming together under one world religion banner, just as is defined at the end times in Revelation. Unfortunately, I mean, if you read quotes from the bishop's website, you can't deny what I'm saying. So it's terrible, but it's undeniable.
And it sounds like it's un-American.
Well, it is un-American. Remember, America was a Bible country. It was defined in 13 colonies by people who came to America because they wanted to practice their biblical work, and they didn't want churches being run by state governments in England or in Rome. 12 of the 13 colonies refused to allow Catholics into the colonies. Maryland, unfortunately, brought in the Jesuits and the Catholic Church and enabled that to pursue. Now, again, individual Catholics are good people, moral people. Unfortunately, they may not realize that the heads of their organization, that would be the Pope, the cardinals, the bishops, are on this track to fully integrate Islam into America. For whatever reason they want to do that, we know that basically is antithetical to the founders and the Constitution. So we have a massive conflict. There's no way to sugarcoat this. I'm hoping that people will dive into this. Prove me wrong. Go read the bishop's website.
Yeah. What we're talking Christianity versus Islam, it sounds like oil and water. They're not going to mix.
They don't mix in any fundamental understanding of the two. They can never mix. So the question is, politically, why would powerful people who include bishops, cardinals, popes, and imams want them to mix? And who is the common enemy? When those people work together, who is the common enemy of that one conglomerate? It's called Chrislam, if you can think about it that way. Yes, yeah, there are people who aggressively pitch Chrislam. And who are the enemies of that? Well, obviously, one group that would be under attack by Chrislam would be Hebrews. And another one would be people who read the Bible and practice the Bible. So many of the evangelical churches are also on the bandwagon, unfortunately. So let's just say people of the book, people that follow Jesus, the Judeo-Christian mindset, people who read the Bible every day, your audience, we are the enemies of the conglomerate Chrislam. And that's why Chrislam allows Islam to penetrate countries like England, Sweden, and unfortunately America. In any of the time we have left, if people want more evidence, we have it about how aggressively is the fundamental transformation of America happening. There's lots of detail about that. And again, the whole goal here is to make people aware of it and figure out what, if anything, they can do about it.
Americans like to have other people do their thinking for them. And you're kind of doing some thinking for some folks, Dick. And we really appreciate that. Something that I am fascinated with is that the LGBTQ community seems to be running America right now. And you could ask the same question about Islam as you could that community. Why are we allowing them to run the United States of America, which they're, I mean, the LGBT community has somewhere in the area of 100 or more celebrations specifically related to their organizations. And they get people elected to office that are going to promote their lifestyle, and the teachers in our schools promote the lifestyle. That being said, what happens to the LGBT community when Islam is ruling?
Well, there's the deception. There's the devil. The devil's propaganda will tell you that there are significant candidates running in New York City for mayor, in Michigan for senator, and there's 1,000 Muslims on ballots around the country this fall. And most of them will tell you about their support for liberal causes, including their support for LGBT. In fact, I'll just go back to it. Leo and Francis, the two recent popes, absolutely embrace LGBT. So let's put that on the table. But these Muslims that are running for office that are basically saying that they're all in favor of marginalized communities like LGBT, when they go into the mosque, and they do, they're being told that the Sharia law supports them not just eliminating LGBT people, gay people, but pushing them off the roofs. I mean, that's the image. Again, so Islam covers up, while they're not in power, the fact that they might support the LGBT community. Can't we all work together? But when they are in power, they will be first aggressively out to destroy the LGBT community because Sharia law disallows homosexuality. It's punishable by death. What a surprise that's going to be for the LGBT community, but that is the case. So there is a problem. There's a major problem with Islam and just sexuality in general. Women are perceived to be property. Young girls are supposed to go through a process called female genital mutilation. These are incompatibilities with the gay community, but they're part of Islam. It's the sugarcoating of Islam. Again, we'll go back to these distinctions could be made by every single pastor, every single priest could make the distinctions I'm making, but they don't. And therefore, the LGBT community will probably show up and vote for the Muslim candidate in New York and vote for the Muslim candidate in Michigan for a U.S. Senate. Again, because they don't understand, or they don't want to learn, or they want to keep their head in the sand. The biggest deception of all is the 1,000 Muslims on ballots who proclaim to be liberal, probably Democrats, who in fact are hardcore followers of Sharia and will not deliver on their promises to the LGBT community. In fact, they will destroy it if they get a chance.
And that I believe to be a fact. Talk about oil and water, just absolutely amazing. I've got a comment up here from Clem or Neo. I believe there is a big three monotheistic religions appear enemies, but are working together. And maybe that's something that you're sort of kind of alluding to.
It's based on politics. If you just read the Bible, there's messages, the story of Jesus, and about our salvation and the gift of our salvation that we could never actually earn, etc. They're very, very basic, important principles about how to live our lives and how to avoid eternal damnation and achieve salvation. But that's gotten so complicated because people wanted to be powerful. So there are people that took the basic messages of the Bible and added a whole lot of tradition, a whole lot of structure. Just look at the hierarchy in the religion, the denominations, including, Protestant denominations have a hierarchy. The Catholic Church has a massive hierarchy, and Islam does. So in order to be powerful and stay in power, you basically create these political movements inside of religions. Islam is basically 50%, fasting, praying, holidays, and 85% political activity and military activity. So you basically have people who have politicized the basic stories of the Bible. They want to be in power, and they figured out on a worldwide basis, if they work together, and join in a one world approach without really criticizing each other, just kind of blend together. It's the power that they think they're going to achieve in terms of controlling other people. Let's face it, imams control people. Pastors, bishops, cardinals, popes control people. They control them by telling them they have to perform certain works. So it's the whole works kind of idea, as opposed to accepting the gift that we could never earn, called salvation, that's related to the death and resurrection of Jesus. That story is held by a remnant of the people. Most people are following somebody else's idea that if you listen to a priest and he gives you absolution in a confession booth, or if you listen to the imam and you follow the 700 rules of Sharia, you will achieve salvation. The people that want to control people have realized if they work together, they can control more people. It basically leaves out the remnant. The remnant just wants to live their lives and follow what they've learned in the Old and New Testament. Those people are the enemy of the unified political, religious people who want to run the world.
Are we? We're going to take a break, Mr. Anderson. Are we headed for another? Is a crusade our only way out of this? And after we take a break, you can answer that question and then follow up on anything else that you want to talk about, Dick. Dick Manesaeri, B.J. Edwards, Mr. Anderson, you're listening to your last call, folks. Lighting a candle.
We need Democrats who have the courage to stand up to the power brokers in our own party, let alone Trump and his goons. We don't back down. We don't back down. We don't back down. With all due respect, if they go low, we don't go high. We take them to the mud and choke them out.
I guess we're back. Mr. Anderson, been off.
Let me congratulate Kevin. Kevin, that was a great find at the right time. That is Abdul El Sayed. He's running for U.S. Senator for Michigan. He just basically issued a call to violence against President Trump. So you brought up the topic of the crusade. Well, the crusades have to do with an armed pushback. To be really blunt, the people in Europe are not going to do anything in terms of a crusade. They don't have guns. They've accommodated Islam to the point where there will be no crusades in England or Germany or France. The politicians are afraid of that, and they basically are criminalizing anybody that speaks up. All right, so BJ, if we were in London today on the air, there would be people arresting you and simultaneously me. We have just committed a crime. We have told the truth about Islam. In England, this is a crime. And so there will be no crusades in England. They don't have guns, and they've basically given up their own culture. Now, let's face it, there are differences in America. By the way, just so you know, if we were broadcasting in the state of Michigan, we might be arrested right now, because in Michigan, they are very careful and conscious about anybody who would criticize Islam will at a minimum be monitored by the Attorney General of Michigan. I know that firsthand. The Attorney General of Michigan has a list of 31 organizations to be watched and monitored because they might offend the Muslim community. I'm very confident in that, by the way. We do not. Anyway, what I'm getting at is there will be no crusades in Europe, and I think it's questionable in America. The difference is in America, we have armed citizens. Well, wait a minute. We have armed citizens, just like that young girl that had the knife and the hatchet in England. This poor 9-year-old girl is trying to push back. She does not want to be assaulted one more time because the police won't protect her. So the real question is, when Americans listen to your program or some other way figure out what's going on, we are being fundamentally transformed and they don't want to take it anymore. How will Americans respond? Well, I think you can pretty much picture this down the road, maybe not too far away. We do have armed citizens. We do have a remnant of people who understand the Bible. We have a remnant of people who understand the Constitution. We see 1,000 people on the ballot this year who are Muslims. who, by the way, let me just point out, the Muslim Brotherhood is a major organization in America that supports getting these people on the ballot. I'm also concerned that Americans don't even care about freedom enough to dismantle the fraudulent election system. Last week you had Marcel on, who was brilliant, talking about the need to move back to paper balloting, and counting paper ballots. That was brilliant. But that remnant is there, but the majority of people don't care about their own freedom to get the machines out. If you don't get the machines out, you don't know who the heck is running your country. So let me just fast forward. If you have 1,000 Muslims on ballots, you have 1,000 opportunities for fraud. I would bet people, my wealth is so big, I would bet $10, but that means a lot. I would bet money that Zohan Mamdani, who is a devout Muslim running on very liberal views, a Democrat in New York, he's going to be the mayor. Just like Sadiq Khan is a mayor, a Muslim in London 10 years ago. I believe Zohran Mamdani will be selected. That means there's fraud, but if you're on the ballot and your machines are counting your votes, you can have fraud. I believe Mamdani will be the mayor of New York. Why? Because that is strategic. It's possible that Abdul El-Sayed will be the U.S. Senator, Muslim from Michigan. These are possible because, and how many of the 1,000 Muslims on other ballots will be pushed into school boards and state representative positions, potentially by fraud, because it's so, once they're on the ballot, fraud can occur because Americans don't care enough to get rid of machines. So thank you to Marcel last week. I guess what I'm getting at, eventually we will be pushed to the brink, like that young girl with the hatchet in Scotland. We will be pushed to no matter how small we are, and we will rebel. That's the closest thing that's going to happen to a crusade. Unfortunately, most armed Americans have no infrastructure. Sheriffs are not out there trying to help us with integrity. Sheriffs are not out there helping us organize. We're not organized, so we have armed people, a remnant. I'm not sure that's going to go well, just because we are legally able to carry, but we don't have a lot of structure. So how will that turn out? I don't know. I'm just suggesting that that's your trajectory unless we do something. And we certainly can talk a little bit about what people can do, because we're on that trajectory. That's a sad story.
Dick, we are under a false pretense here as Americans. We think that we have freedom. And if you saw the debate between the Secretary of Health and Congress, what you need to understand is, as of 2025, there are 531 voting members in Congress. Okay, the pharmaceutical industry has consistently been one of the largest spenders. They are the largest spenders in lobbying. Has spent $4.7 billion from 1999 to 2018, averaging $233 million per year. That's gone up to $387 million per year. 2 lobbyists for every representative in Congress. And that's just scratching the surface. It's not just the pharmaceutical industry that is controlling your lives. And if you think
that's
go ahead.
That's so important. I want to give you 2 other groups that are throwing major amounts of money at our government and making progress. Okay, so let's look at the Artificial Intelligence Organization. All right, thank you. They've spent millions of dollars to put people in office who are going to have unregulated artificial intelligence development. And that is basically a major move to controlling people. Like China has basically a beast system that controls people. We have people in the cabinet who are promoting artificial intelligence. But wait, let's go back to our topic. $100 billion was spent by one country to influence the federal government. That country is Qatar. And who are the people that were paid, that made a living lobbying for this Muslim country? Well, one of them is the Attorney General of the United States. It's Pam Bondi. Another one is the Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles. Another one is Steve Witkoff, who is our main negotiator around the world. And finally, one of them is a classmate of mine named Bill Bennett, who is receiving money to lobby for Qatar inside the United States government. So we have a major uphill battle to realize, as you said, a big part of our government infrastructure has been compromised through people with spending money on pharmaceuticals, artificial intelligence, but also Islamic infiltration of our country. And that's the problem.
Yeah, decades ago, I helped get a House representative elected. I knew him personally, walked the streets with him when he was doing the election to get into office the first time. A really solid citizen. Sent him to Washington, D.C., and never heard from him again. And he was not the individual that I helped get elected. When you get there, there is a lot of power that they're into, that they're exposed to, or that they have to go against. It's really, really difficult. But again, it's just trying to make the point that if we emphasize anything here other than the family, it's local, local, local. We had Stephanie Mann on earlier talking about the neighborhood. That's where it is, folks. That's where you're going to find your salvage. You can't hide out in the country and be self-sufficient. They'll come get you. They'll come get you. We want to make you aware of that. We want you to focus on local, 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 and that includes your church. Find out where they are with regards to this. This, what do you call that? Chrislam. Chrislam
is the blending of Islam and Christianity.
Yep. Dick, got just a couple minutes. Anything you want to leave our audience with?
Well, I appreciate the fact that you usually end your program with action items, and I realize what I talk about is depressing. But I hope that people take it as just an attempt to be as truthful as possible. Action items: pray. We've had divine intervention before. That's how the country was formed.
We'll need it.
On a local level, push back against this influence, which again, as the BJ said, talk to your pastor, find out if Chrislam is somehow a vision of your organization. You may not have realized that. The Evangelical Free Church of America is an organization of evangelicals who unfortunately has become infiltrated and is now woke and would be part of this problem. And finally, when push comes to shove, you cannot depend, unfortunately, on law enforcement. You need to prepare to defend yourself and your loved ones, just because it's not clear unless we change things along the lines that BJ, guests, including our first guest, talk about. If we don't fix things at the local level, we're responsible for protecting ourselves, and I advise people to be prepared.
I got Clem. Go ahead, brother. You got 48 seconds.
The root cause of the false dichotomy within at least this country is the misuse of the love gospel. We just love, we're going to love them into the kingdom. No, sorry, not going to work. Back when Obama was running, this is a very, very Christian area. My father, the preacher, printed off some stuff about Obama, took it to every fundamentalist church in the county. They all patted him on the head and said, "That's nice, old man. Thank you very much." That's where we are. We're going to love them. We're going to love them into the kingdom. Sure.
And he's a doer. Clem's a doer. Got about 30 seconds, brother. Fire away. Otherwise, we're going to kick you off here.
Well, it's called tough love, sir. I think we need to be as honest and truthful in love as we can. We need to tell the truth in love and let the chips fall where they may. Love and justice go together. We have a merciful God. We have a just God. We have a holy God. It's not one. He would not be loving of people that are basically pursuing criminal behavior amongst us. And we need to be aware of that and make people just find the truth in love.
Thanks, Dick. Hey, folks, go out and light a candle this weekend, all right? After you watch the football game.
I once was lost in sin, but Jesus took me in. And then a little light from heaven filled my soul. It bathed my heart in love and wrote my name Just a little talk with Jesus makes me whole. Let us have a little talk with Jesus. Let us tell him all about our trouble. He will hear our faces cry. He will answer by and by. Now when you feel a little prayer return, Lord, you got to know a little fire burn.
Join us next week for Last Call with BJ Edwards.